stationed there for us for a few days now. What's happening this morning?
Well, this morning the shift is heading out, and it's going to be another busy day. We're hearing activity going on. You know, much like that Mexico-Guatemala border where you see them all on that bridge, this entire sector, the Rio Grande Valley sector, is 277 miles of river border. And yesterday we encountered a smuggler coming across on a raft, bringing people across all day long. We confronted him. I tried to get him to talk to us. He fled to the other side and got away, but it's just a microcosm of the massive problem. 641 illegal crossings here in just this sector alone every day. That's why the president out west in Nevada had this tough talk to say. Take a listen.
You have some very, very bad people in the caravan. You have some very tough criminal elements within the caravan. But I will seal off the border before they come into this country. And I'll bring out our military, not our reserves. I'll bring out our military.
Now, what that exactly would entail, we'll ask the sector chief in a little while how that would even be done, and we're going to show you a little bit more of this porous border, as we never know what's coming across, but it's definitely going to be all morning long. We'll be there, guys.
All right, Griff Jenkins, who's been taking us along on this journey, if you will. A couple days ago here on Fox and Friends, people were being apprehended at the border right behind him, live on our program. He's going to be taking us on maybe on a ride-along a little later this morning. And sometimes somebody says in a report, it just stops you. You hear all these stats, you hear these figures. And he just said that at that one spot on the border, there are over 600 illegal crossings. A month, a year? No, a day.
Yes.
Every day, over 600 illegal crossings in the spot where Griff is right now.
Such a great point, because the reason he's at the border is because of this migrant caravan. We're talking about it. Will it be stopped? What's happening? Will Mexico crack down? He's at our southern border. That's not where the caravan is. So it's not because of those 600 that he's there. He just happens to be reporting on that because he's there. Mm-hmm. We don't have any idea or even a concept of how many people are coming into our country illegally, and we don't have no idea who they are, Emily.
And he touched on a great point as well, which is the smuggling aspect. And it's almost a bait and switch that the cartels engage with in our southern border, which is they'll push large loads of people in one aspect to have drugs on the other aspect, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like
it's a business.
Exactly, and pulling attention toward that. And I think that speaks to as well the multiple factors that really impact and affect this mass migration, where it's not just about the southern border, but really how much of these push factors are impacting all of those countries.
And it's fascinating because we played in the open of the show a journalist trying to suggest that the president's using this on the campaign trail as a cudgel because maybe it's going to rally white voters and that this is all about essentially, different people, making people not feel welcome in America. And we had an awesome panel last hour that you interviewed of people who are legal immigrants. They cover all kinds of
They came from Albania. They came from Honduras, from Nicaragua. To your point, Ed, not to cut you off, sorry. They came here legally. You're not going to hear this on any other network.
And they weren't all fleeing communist countries. One of them was from Panama, right? So it's not that there was a desperation quality that drove them. It was from all walks of life, but also that it was from a communist origin. And even so, your one guest.
Yeah. Here's three of them from earlier this morning. Yeah. Listen.
The act of coming illegally through the border is an act of war. This is invasion. If we permit it, the other caravans will continue to come. We have to stop it.
It's an orchestrated attempt to overwhelm the U.S.-Mexico border. This is politically motivated.
It pays to be illegal in the United States. The Democrats are promoting chaos and lawlessness. I think the president should send in the military, send a clear and decisive message that lawlessness is not going to be allowed into our borders.
And that last gentleman made an important point to you as well. He went on to say that you've got the mainstream media characterizing basically everyone in the caravan as refugees, when we don't know whether they're refugees. We don't really know the background. We don't know why they're fleeing. And so there's just this cavalier, they're all refugees, so we've got to take care of them. These were three people we had on who were, kind of a tableau of America, who were basically saying, I wanted to chase the American dream, but I did it the right way. I did it legally.
Mm-hmm. Which the president has said he's for from the beginning. And I asked, I believe it was Amapola, about the fact that a lot of these folks in the caravan are carrying the flag of Honduras. Mm-hmm. What does that say to you?
We saw
he said, if you want to come to America, carry our flag and say, I want to be a part of your country because I love what it represents.
I want to get a better life for my family. That's what the three people on our panel all wanted and have all achieved, by the way.
I think we should just re-roll that panel again. Not because I did the interview. It probably would have been better if Ed did it. But the guests were fantastic and brought out so many great points from people who've done it before.
Well, illegal immigration, obviously, and in the crackdown of that, something that propelled the president to victory in 2016, something he's trying to inject into the midterms as well and really frame this as one of the key issues. But another one, of course, is the economy. And the president wants to make sure Republicans get credit for the first tax cut. There's some debate about whether it's been lost in the noise of all the other issues. But now he's teeing up the possibility of a second tax cut. Watch.
We are looking at putting in a very major tax cut for middle-income people. And if we do that, it'll be sometime just prior, I would say, to November. And are studying very deeply right now, round the clock, a major tax cut for middle-income people. Not for business at all, for middle-income people. Kevin Brady's working on it. Paul Ryan is working. We're all working on it. And we're looking at a major tax cut for middle-income people who need it.
What was your time frame for that?
I would say sometime around the 1st of November, maybe a little before that.
This is huge because that is a point that the Democrats have really been focusing on, that there haven't been tax cuts for the middle class. And here's the president right now saying not only is he working on it right now, but that it will likely be done before November, or at least some type of proposal done before then, before the midterms. That's a huge talking point that the Democrats really haven't released, that I think is a strong point for the GOP moving forward.
Republicans want to be talking about tax cuts, and I think this will help continue that messaging. Democrats want to be talking about health care, but everyone's talking about immigration. I mean, isn't it interesting? I mean, you don't get to control necessarily the topics, but this feels like a follow-through on another campaign promise and an attempt to keep the focus on the strong economy that Republicans are hoping will lift their votes.
Well, you can talk about the economy, healthcare, immigration, and you talk about the president. He is a big issue in this campaign. In fact, when Fox did a poll last week about the top 3 issues driving your vote in the midterms, what's extremely important to you? Healthcare, the economy were at the top. President Trump was at 51%, said this will be a big reason why I vote, either for or against Republican and Democratic candidates. So Joe Biden went out on the trail. He was in Nevada as well as the president yesterday, trying to have sort of dueling rallies. Biden obviously looking at the potential for another presidential run in 2020. And he made it all about the president as he was speaking there in Nevada, trying to influence a big Senate race. Watch.
And they're being shredded by a president who is all about himself. It's all about Donald. It's not about anything else. It's time to get up, lift our heads up, remember who the hell we are. This is America. Let's take back the Senate, and we will change the world as we know it. Now, 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 now.
So he's fired up, but it sounds
Not
like
later.
the crowd count.
Now, just in case.
It sounds like the crowd count was a little smaller there than the president's rally.
Exactly. And something that the president touched on as well, in addition to which I find so rich, is Biden saying, oh, it's all about him, when he is the last person in the universe that should be telling someone else that they're hogging the spotlight, because he just will not relinquish it. But look at this coming up, that President Trump had interesting things to say, and coming up with a nickname for Joe Biden and eliciting help from the audience.
He likes to label people.
Yeah, exactly. Things that we can remember, kitschy things that we can all remember. So he was eliciting a little bit of help from the audience.
We call him 1% Joe because he ran at least twice, I think 3 times. They say twice. I think he ran 3 times. And he never had more than 1%. So we call him 1% Joe. Obama came along and took him off of the trash heap and made him vice president. So we call him either Sleepy Joe Biden or 1%. Which is better? She said Creepy Joe. No, I would never do that. I would never insult him like that.
He would never insult him. He might repeat it at a big rally with thousands of people.
Maybe.
I might throw it out
and
there.
Ed, you were generous about crowd size. You've got Trump with another packed rally with people waiting outside. Joe Biden barely eked out 200. He's a former vice president of the United States in a contentious election cycle in Las Vegas, Nevada, which Democrats control. Big city. And you get 200 people out?
That's what goes to show that the fact that they've overstayed their welcome in that party, right? So they're resurrecting themselves over and over again, but the voters are buying in.
They haven't found it yet.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
All right, turning now to your headlines. A Fox News alert. A desperate manhunt is underway after a cop is shot and killed in cold blood. Officer Antoine Tony was ambushed while responding to a report of a suspicious car near a school in Georgia. Police are now searching for 18-year-old Tafari Maynard for murder. A second suspect is in police custody. We now know the call for help on the night a couple was murdered came from the mother's cell phone. A dispatcher says they heard a lot of yelling before someone hung up. Their daughter is now at the top of the FBI's missing person list, and police believe 13-year-old Jamie Kloss is alive and in danger. Police have received more than 1,000 tips and have investigated 800 of them.
What a mystery.
And wounded warriors taking center stage as Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle kick off the 4th annual Invictus Games in Sydney, Australia. The Duke of
Invictus
Sussex
Games have become about much more than the thousands of competitors who have taken part. Invictus has become about the example of service and dedication our competitors have provided to the world.
The Duke of Sussex created the international competition in 2014 to help injured veterans.
All right,
Those are
cool.
your headlines.
Cool competition for sure. All right, well, coming up, she's back.
The real president.
Clearly, Hillary Clinton likes the sound. Hundreds of people to key states.
Deontay Johnson is president of the Black Conservative Federation, and he joins us now with more. Welcome, Deontay. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So how do you think you can make the biggest impact? Talk about some of these battlegrounds where you think Black conservatives can make the difference.
Well, we're pulling the red wave, and we're pulling it full force. We're going to be in Georgia with Brian Kemp, helping him stump for the governor's race. The Democrats have been pulling out tactics of voter suppression. They've been pulling out tactics that he's cheating to try to win. And we're going to come in and we're going to say that Black conservatives are not suppressed with our votes. We're going to get out, we're going to stump, and we're going to make sure that we pull the red wave.
Deontay, pardon me one second. Isn't it something deeper in Georgia, though? Because we've featured on this program that the Democratic nominee running against Brian Kemp has been out there. She's on tape saying, I want African Americans, I want Asian Americans, and I want illegal immigrants, basically, who are not allowed to vote, to be part of my coalition. Does that frustrate Black conservatives?
It frustrates us, but we can't let that stop us. We have to continue to push. One thing that the Democrats are good at is they're good at complaining. They're good at protesting. But one thing that Black conservatives are good at is we're good at hitting the ground running. We're good at knocking doors, making phone calls, and making sure that we're securing the vote, making sure that we're working for the vote, unlike Democrats.
Deontay, it shouldn't be this way because we shouldn't assume people have a certain view based on their skin color. But when you meet people and talk to folks, are they surprised? Hey, Black conservatives, I didn't know there was a group out there like that doing things like this.
We are the unicorns, but it's something that it gets people thinking. It gets people thinking that yes, you can be an independent thinker. Yes, you can be conservative. You don't, just because you're Black doesn't mean you have to be a Democrat. I tell people all the time, when I was born, my birth certificate did not say my political party wasn't chosen for me already, so I can be what I want to be.
What is the biggest message, Deontay, that you are driving forward in reaction to what the Democratic Party is kind of usurping for you, for Black African American voters and the conservative lean? What's that message?
The message is that the conservative movement is for you. We have had a tremendous year with tax reform. We've had a tremendous year with unemployment rate being at an all-time low. And these are reasons why we have to continue to keep the conservatives in control in the House and the Senate so we can continue to have great Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh and Gorsuch.
Deontay, very briefly, we got about 20 seconds.